Tabletopped will start after the following messages.
Do you know where the legend of Bigfoot comes from? Or why people leave offerings of beans to the Mothman statue? No? Well, I'll certainly tell you on Myth Monsters. We're a mythical monsters and cryptid podcast that goes up every Thursday, and we talk about how these monsters came to be and how they exist within our modern culture and media to this day. So if you're interested in finding out about kelpies, wendigos, unicorns, or Bigfoot himself, tune in to Myth Monsters every Thursday on all streaming platforms, and please, stay spooky.
Welcome back. It's lonely under this bed. I've been here for a week now. Maybe a little less. Almost a week. But at least I have my two friends with me. Who's that? Under the pillow side of under the bed.
Oh, I guess I have the pillow? Wow, I'm flattered. I didn't even realize that I was that cool to have the pillow. Hi, this is Greg, I guess the monster with the pillow under the bed.
and over there near the footboard, the trunk at the base of the bed. Who are you?
Hi, it's Shade. I'm sorry. My eye has just been really itching. I got this headache. It's just... I think something got up in there.
Okay, got up in there? Have you been using that neti pot again? Because I've been telling you, there can be stuff in there that just goes straight in.
No, it was like a tadpole or something straight to my brain.
And today, I guess I should say, I'm the host. I'm Nick. I'm here. We're going to be talking about illithids, or more commonly known as the Mindflayer. This is like one of Shade's favorite monsters, I would say. Greg, you also have talked a lot. Like, I remember when the Baldur's Gate 3 trailer came out, you were losing your mind about it as well.
Yeah.
The kind of apotheosis trailer where someone turned into a mind flayer.
Yeah,
it's metamorphosis.
I would say that it's it's my
definitely not apotheosis.
Is apotheosis when you turn into a demon?
God.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah,
Or a demon god, perhaps?
Theosis. I mean, if you want to split hairs between difference between a god and a demon, yeah.
I'm just
Lolth is both.
Yeah, really the only time I hear of apotheosis is in Warhammer lore, and they're always turning into demons.
Honestly though, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking about mind flayers today. First off, are they based off of something that's not a D&D lore, or is
that, to my knowledge, they are 100% original D&D?
Because it's very much like inspired by sort of the cosmic horror sort of
without
thing.
a doubt.
Absolutely.
But they do have their very specific thing that they do. So why don't you guys sort of like walk me through what a mind flayer's like deal is?
After you, Greg.
All right. And feel free to jump in, Shade, anytime. But a mind flayer is essentially a creature of the Underdark. Now,
is it a Forgotten Realms creature, or is it sort of like all settings?
I'd say all settings, really.
Yeah.
Given their history.
I know they're in Spelljammer, so that kind of means they're in all settings.
Yeah. Boy. Yeah, all settings is a better way to look at it, but they have a very big prevalence in Forgotten Realms.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I would say...
Presence is the word I wanted.
I would say that all settings, namely because of who they are and their history, because the Mind Flayers, they are, while they're uniquely D&D, as you were saying, Nick, they're very much inspired by cosmic horror. I mean, for God's sakes, they kind of look like Cthulhu.
They're octopus people.
Yeah, they're octopus people, and they're an incredibly ancient race of beings who once had like a cosmos-spanning empire. They subjugated other beings to their rule.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I knew that the not aberrations, but they're like the thing that are ununderstandable, aren't they?
No, they're aberrations.
Really?
Yeah.
So are they they're like similar, area
like a beholder
to
like
star spawns.
Correct. Also aberrations. So
they're
like
in the same family.
All of the aberrations in D&D, let's just keep it at 5e, 5e and beyond lore, but also a lot of the old stuff. They come from likely come from another multiverse altogether.
Mm-hmm. Far realm, right?
Are you saying
the
that
far
there's
realm.
more than one multiverse?
Yes.
Oh, now you've done it.
Yeah. Welcome to my Ico Knights campaign. That's the whole point.
Now you've done it.
But yeah, that's so the far realm, an entirely different place, and everything is very alien to our understanding of it. But the not all aberrations come from the same far realm. Is my understanding of it.
So, like,
I'm not sure if that's
beholders
entirely
aren't
correct.
just like a different evolutionary strain of illithid. They're just
right,
like,
maybe.
yeah.
I mean, no, they're definitely not like from the evolutionary strain. Or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that,
like
but yeah.
so they're not but they might be from the same place, but they're definitely not the same kind of
Yeah,
creature.
I mean, it's like the
Evolution is kind of when you have the far realm, it's best to just throw like things like evolution out the window. At least that's my opinion.
yeah, and I guess what I'm trying to say is like they're not all necessarily from one big happy world together or something like that.
Right.
They're all sort of separate and distinct from each other, and yeah, they should be treated as such. But what Greg was saying is that the illithids, the Mindflayers, had a massive empire that did stretch through the cosmos.
Yeah, and
what happened?
I would say that, and I guess adding on to that conversation, what I would say, the thing about all these creatures from the far realm, it's you can have what the connection that they have is they're definitely not from here, like here in the Great Wheel and such. But
You can't go home, but you can't stay here.
pretty much, and they pretty much dominated the cosmos, like the D&D cosmos for a time. They subjugated people from various species through psychic abilities. The Mindflayers are really good at mind control. They are all about dominating other creatures, sapping them of their will. At best, you're a servant. At worst, you're food. Because the second thing you need to know about Mind Flayers is how they eat is brains. They love brains. They will just...
Don't they like eat thoughts, but like the way that they get to the thoughts is by eating the brain?
Psionic energy
Yeah.
is a great way to look at that.
Yeah, and they just like they just have like they're an octopus head, but they have a lamprey mouth, and what they do is they clamp down on your cranium, and then they just go to town. And it is just like the tentacles are what allows them to do that. Yeah. And you know the worst thing about it is like if you're enthralled, you might not even care.
You're like totally cool with it.
Yeah, you're just like
You're told to submit.
yeah. And eventually, as you can imagine, the Mind Flayers doing all of this to a variety of people, they're like all tyrants. The problem they came across one day was they found somebody who could, fight back, and fight back they did. There was, I believe, an individual by the name of Gith.
Yeah.
Like
who's the
Gith Yankee?
Yeah.
That's where they get the name
That's
from.
where they get the name.
So the Gith Yankee specifically means followers of Gith.
Yeah.
Oh. And they're like really that makes sense, but they are anti right?
They were essentially elves that were enslaved by illithids.
Yeah.
And were so warped by the psionic dealings that they underwent that their entire biology just changed.
Yeah.
So is Gith like a god, or?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So Gith does kind of lead this revolution and starts kind of their own empire of a sort that's really dedicated to going out there and just killing every gaith or mind flayer, as that's the word they use.
Yeah.
That they can find and just dismantling their empire. And the lineage that starts from this leads eventually to individuals who would set themselves up as God. It's Vlakith. Is she the 17th?
Something like that.
Vlakith's 17th.
Although it's kind of hard to gauge because when you're playing around with things like immortality and such like that, it's like, are you the 17th? Or are you the original who's just claiming you're the 17th? It gets a little complicated.
Is Gith dead?
Oh no, not the 17th. My apologies. It's CL7, so that would be 157.
Funny you mentioned this about Gith. Gith is, I don't think dead, but she might want to be, because you see, fighting the illithids, this cosmic horror, you don't exactly take out like a galactic evil empire just overnight. You need help. And one of the things she was able to, one of the resources she was able to get is an alliance between red dragons, like the species as a whole. But she got that by making a deal with Tiamat, and Tiamat's like, all right, the price you pay is you stay with me and hell forever. And that's where she's been for these past couple of millennia. So it worked, though, because if there's one thing, there's that saying, when in doubt, kill it with fire.
Yeah. Well, are red dragons also anti-mind flayer?
Yeah, largely, yeah. I mean, and mind flayers also messed with red dragons here and there too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they are helping the Gith. So there is a animosity there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That's really cool.
And yeah, it's and they just kind of crumbled, and the empire was eventually smashed, and the Illithids realized, nobody really particularly likes us, so they went to the one place that most people in their right mind would dare not go, the Underdark. Yeah, your favorite place.
I love the Underdark.
I know you do.
So here's the thing that I have a question about, because I've done a little research about mind flayers, okay? I'm the one who has some knowledge now.
Okay. Good on you.
And mind flayers are just the foot soldiers. The elder brains are the real thinkers, right?
Yeah.
So, and like from what I saw, they are also enthralled to the elder brain.
Yeah. So, it's mind flayers are interesting because they're essentially a hive mind, but they still have individuality to an extent.
Fascinating.
It's really cool. Also, very hand wavy of just being like, yeah, it's not all the exact same mind. It's
like, do the players like this one Illithid? Okay, it's a little different than the rest.
Yeah. It's a little different.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
Yeah. But no, so the greatest thing that can happen to a mind flayer is for it to ascend, have an apotheosis of a sort.
Ooh, that's weird again.
To an elder brain, because elder brains start off the same. And the whole reproductive, because we didn't really talk about this, but the reproductive cycle for a mind flayer, most people probably know at this point, especially if you've played Baldur's Gate 3. Is they have tadpoles. Yeah. They grab humanoids, typically, though not exclusively. Okay. They grab creatures. They slip that tadpole into your eye, so it crawls up behind your eyeball.
Oh God!
And it goes into your brain and starts feeding on your brain until eventually it grows and takes all of your genetics and morphs into. Essentially, you shed your skin and tentacles. Your jaw breaks and tentacles come out.
So, do you have some of yourself left in there?
That's a great question. So it's gonna depend.
I love how into this she's like, this is it. This is what I was born for. This is my time.
I do love them. And shout out to Tim, who once upon a time ran something that kind of went into a spelljammery thing, and leaned into loves mind flayers.
Has a mind flayer hat, right?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. We did a portrait of him. We had a portrait commissioned of him as a mind flayer in his fez that he loves.
Oh God.
So Tim, I think, loves mind flayers more than me, but I like to think I'm a close second. But yeah, so what was the point that I was going to make?
Do you lose yourself?
Do you lose yourself? Thank you. So there are moments where maybe it didn't take properly. There are moments where mind flayers become decoupled from an elder brain, and they still have the memories of who they were, perhaps. Yeah. So they may kind of, but then there's the question of, because in D&D there's a soul, and that is really your truest self, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And that can because there is a reincarnation spell, so that's like
there
it can
is,
be put
but
into different vessels.
The standard idea is that you cannot be reincarnated. So, like, if you had clone going on and you were ceramorphized, those clones are just worthless slugs now. Like, they're nothing.
Unless you die, right? Then they'll pop up? Or?
No, that's what I'm saying. You die in that process, but you don't come back. Now, obviously,
obliteration.
Obliteration.
So is the psionic energy the same as the soul? Like, is it
That's another great question. And again, when we play my Ico Knights game one of these days, we are going to dive into this kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's a lot of overlap between psionics and soul magic.
Cool.
Well, Yeah. And
So this thing eats souls and puts tadpoles
Sort
in
of,
people's brains.
maybe,
Kinda.
maybe, question mark. I mean,
Yeah.
like, there's debating ideas.
Well, yeah, and then there's the other thing, as we were saying, when we were talking about Mindflayers being kind of different, and Shade was saying, like, sometimes it doesn't take. It's the question of what happens when the tadpole biologically changes you, but your soul somehow survives. Then you could potentially become your own individual.
Yeah.
However, this puts you in a problematic place, namely, one, you're still an illithid, so you still need to eat brains, so that's going to be a problem.
Is it you need to, or is
Yes.
it
You do.
want to?
It's like a vampire situation.
Yeah,
you have to.
And the second thing is that since you're no longer part of the hive mind, that elder brain, that godlike entity, it views you as a threat, and it's going to take you out no matter what.
Because like in my research, I also thought I read that the elder brain kind of use illithids as food. Is that correct?
Kinda.
Yeah.
I've been told that the tadpoles that are in there sometimes get nommed on.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of again, it's all kind of it's eating psionic stuff, right? So a great example of this is I think they're called are they called Watchers? So it's when a beholder has been essentially had its identity completely eaten up by a mind flayer or an elder brain.
Whoa!
And they are just now like kind of beholder zombies. I mean, so it's also eating that. Yeah. Yeah. And eating another mind flayer is 100% something that will happen.
Yeah.
And they're okay with it? Like,
oh, I mean, okay. Yeah. They're one hive mind. So they do still have machinations against each other sometimes, right? Yeah. So, but if the elder brain, the boss, says, I'm going to eat you, and you can't run away, no one's going to look at that and go, one of these days, I'm going to be the elder brain, and I won't eat my employees. No, they're going to be like, fuck yeah, I wish I was that guy.
Yeah.
But I also kind of am that guy, sort of, because we have the same hive mind.
One of the stories that I heard about the elder brain is that there's this idea that when the mind flayers die, they throw their brains into the tank, and then they become one with the hive mind. And it's like, nah, it just eats them. It just eats them.
Yeah. It's all a lie.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Man, it's definitely a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so we've really delved into the lore and like what these things are. So let's talk a little bit about their stat block and how we'd use them. So these things are, because you can encounter them fairly early in a game,
They're
right?
CR7.
Yeah, CR7.
Honestly, one of my favorite big spoiler for a D&D thing, like a source book or an adventure book coming up for anyone who's going to ever run an adventure book. They appear at level 1 in the Waterdeep campaign. The Dragon Heist. You guys saw it.
In the sewer,
it was in the sewer. It was in the
Yeah.
first freaking chapter.
It just kind of like walked away.
Yeah,
though.
it just walks away. Like it's not. But I mean,
If you had been like,
someone,
foul creature, I'm here to
if
joust
someone
you.
comes and attacks, I could, as a DM, just go, yeah, all right, we're doing it.
Yeah.
That's a spoiler right here, too, for, I guess, Descent into Avernus. But yeah, if you, it's like blink and you'll miss it, but they also show up at the beginning of there.
Oh,
they're
actually in every single source book, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Or every single adventure.
Are they building towards something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
it's coming
without
out
a doubt.
in it just came out. So the Lost Mines of Phandelver actually leads into a number of other adventures, but culminates in a very recent release that I cannot remember the title of. Phandelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk, I think. Yep, the Shattered Obelisk.
The Mines of Phandelver has been universally panned, though, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a.
I didn't know anything about it.
It was the first adventure for 5e.
Yeah. So are they doing sort of like a lore sort of thing?
There's a. I mean, if we really want to get into it, and hey, I guess Mind Flayers are a Stranger Things thing as well.
Oh, yeah.
And Vecna is now a Stranger Things thing as well. So I'm just going to tell you that Mind Flayers and Vecna are playing a central role in the quote-unquote culmination of 5e.
Gotcha.
And have been for a while, and probably will be a launching point for their 1D&D stuff. But
Oh, yeah.
So it's sort of like they've been like, remember all those times that you saw that footnote where a mind flayer
Yeah.
was. It was all this one plan that they were working on.
I mean, sort of, but not really. I mean, we're giving them a lot of credits.
Yeah, I will say from a lore standpoint, forgetting like whatever is going on with all the other stuff, but it does kind of make sense when you're thinking about grand designs for like the Illithids, because they were like a great empire at one point, and now they have fallen on hard times, and they are a remnant of what they once were. However, the fact is that that little tiny remnant is still exceedingly dangerous, and it's given a chance, they'll come back, you know, into their full glory, which would be a bad thing for everyone. Like the Gith, they still hunt the Illithids down because they're like, okay, you know, even if one Elder Brain's still around, it could do a boatload of trouble.
For sure.
Yeah, like forget, like a world is going to fall if one of these things gets like really, really into its own.
One good foothold.
So let's talk about the stack block then.
Yeah.
So let's stay with the Mind Flayer. The Elder Brain's its own thing. Maybe we'll do an episode on it someday.
Oh, yeah.
But let's talk about the stat block. It's a CR7, or 7. So this thing is, you know, a party of level 5 adventurers could probably start dealing with one of these things. But it sounds like these things are used as mastermind characters.
Yeah.
Like they are the culmination of an adventure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you're doing a high level adventure, and then you see a lot of these, I guess.
There's an Uber version of it too.
Oh God!
it's
Uber
called
Eats. Uber Eats.
Yep, get your brain food. Uber Eats. It's called an Eleutherid, and that thing is like an Illithid on steroids.
Yeah.
So that could be, you know, again, there's like levels of mastermind you could do
Wait,
with
so
that.
is it still under an Elder Brain?
Yeah, but it's kind of like on its way to
It's the step
branching out and
Yeah.
like having a schism.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do they have like? God, I'm so interested in the lore. But let's get back to the
Yeah,
stat
sorry.
block.
So yeah, a good mastermind character, but it doesn't have to exclusively be one. Like
Yeah.
it could have bosses, and it does have a boss, right?
Yeah.
But it sort of feels like the big bad evil creature that maybe you work up to till you're like level 5 or 7 or something like that, and then you're like, okay, but that was just the beginning.
Yeah, leading into something even larger.
I think what's really cool about the Mind Flayer is that despite the fact that it's like only a CR level 7 character, it can still be in like higher campaigns because it's not the physical nature that makes it so dangerous. It's a mastermind. It's a boss. It knows how to think. You play the character smart. That's how you play it as a monster.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
How dangerous is its charm magic? Because one of the things that I actually really dislike about 5e is that pretty much every magic other than evocation is not a huge threat in combat, because like a lot of the charm and all that kind of stuff is like a DC 12 or a DC 14, and that's like pretty easy to get over.
I'll tell you what, it's better than both a DC 12 and a DC 14.
What is it for these?
It's a DC 15.
so like not something that a stalwart adventurer really needs to worry about, but it's something that you probably will fall under its sway.
Yeah. So it it can do dominate monster once per day. That's actually not really that powerful.
No.
But it does have a physicality to it, and it also
Dominate
has
Monster's like a level 5 spell, right?
I mean, dominate monster's nothing to sneeze at for sure. It's a level 8 spell.
Oh yeah. So because you can like grab a dragon or whatever. with
Correct.
it.
Yeah. You can grab a monster implying everything.
Yeah.
But it does have its mind blast, which does stun people. So that's how it gets around it. And it does, but that has a recharge factor as well. You got to roll a 5 or a 6.
Yeah.
So it can't just be out there constantly mind blasting you, right? But if it's got an incapacitated humanoid with it anywhere nearby, it can take out the brain like that.
So it's like if you go down, you got to get the down person away.
Yeah, you better get that because what it will do is it's a 5-foot reach. It's a +7 to hit, and it does have to be grappling with its tentacles, as Greg illustrated for us previously.
Oh yeah.
I just want to clarify that Greg didn't actually illustrate that in any physical way, just with words.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
No, of course.
Nope. Quiet, thralls.
Thank you. So so an incapacitated creature, it's going to roll that +7, and being incapacitated, it's going to be advantage, right? So it's going to do a 55 average or a 10d10 piercing damage, and if it
Is that Mind Blast?
no, this is extract brain.
Ooh, okay.
So again, if you have a creature that's incapacitated for some reason, and if this damage reduces the target to 0, it just kills the character or the target outright and extracts and devours its brain.
And you can't get rezzed.
Nope. No, at that point, there's nothing it technically wouldn't. If you had true resurrection, yeah, you could still res.
It's the ceramorphous that's where the issue comes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then...
But I thought psionic energy were souls. I don't know. My brain's breaking. This is what they
again,
do. Trying to understand them.
It's getting kind of wibbly wobbly in there.
Yeah, this is where I check out on that point.
Yeah. But let's talk about that Mind Blast, because I just kind of touched on it. So it emits psychic energy in a 60-foot cone. Each creature in the area must succeed a DC 15 save throw or take 48 + 4 or 22 psychic damage and be stunned for a minute. Stunned creatures are incapacitated, so it can make you incapacitated fairly easily. Yeah. But again, if you have a character who's gone down, it's got a way to kill that character right away. Mm-hmm. So very, very difficult. And if you're stunned for a minute or until you succeed every time on your turn, the saving throw. So yeah. That's pretty much it. It can slap you around with its tentacles. It can do a plane shift once per day. It can dominate monsters once per day. It can levitate at will, and it can detect thoughts.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, that checks out.
Yeah. Are intellect devourers
part of them?
Yep. Part of them.
Yep, they're pets.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And then another great use. Again, spoilers for Waterdeep. Sorry, but the Dragon Heist specifically. You may recall there is a individual.
Poor man.
Yeah, that poor man. That was one of the pets of that Mindflayer you saw.
Oh. Yeah.
They're out there being spies. And also, spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3, the best intellect devourer ever, us.
Yeah.
It's literally in the first 5 minutes you meet this thing. So us.
Cool.
There is such a good brain. I mean, that's really all I can call them.
Yeah.
All right. So then let's talk a little bit about how we would use Mindflayers. Then we can kind of wrap up. We've talked about masterminds, all that kind of stuff. Is there some way that you really like to get the most out of Mindflayers? It doesn't feel like you want to use them in combat, really. It seems like you want them to be part of a group that they are commanding, or how do you guys feel about it?
I would say so. I feel like, at least for the Mindflayer, a Mindflayer is a creature of caution. It has no issue with like attacking a defenseless victim who's, it can like feed on. But if a Mindflayer is fighting a group of adventurers, it's screwed up. It's, at least that's my 2 cents, or it thinks it has a real advantage on them. So I think that a Mindflayer is definitely something that hunts in the shadows, for a variety of reasons. One, it's a nerd. It's literally a brain. It needs to act and think. And 2, it's as terrifying of a foe as it is. It's gotten hit hard, and almost everybody hates Mindflayers. That when Mindflayers show up, usually most groups who do not like each other will drop everything to hunt this thing down.
Really?
I mean, because everybody understands
how existential threat they pose.
Yeah, an individual Mindflayer, you're not going to have most there's a ton of creatures out there that would not be threatened by it, but when you have an active group of a Mindflayer colony working around, even devils will be this isn't good, so
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Man, it's the absolute evil. Everyone's we cannot have these. It's
yeah.
It's absolute evil mixed with a rat infestation where everyone's we gotta get rid of these rats.
Pretty much.
And to kind of get into the planar aspects here, because we do have Planescape coming up soon. Part of that is because Greg mentioned the Great Wheel earlier when referring to the multiverse that you typically play in.
Oh, yeah.
The Great Wheel is like the outer planes, which are all the lawful good, neutral good, blah, 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 all the way through the chaotic evils. Spheres of thought, essentially, that exist around the material plane, and these things are completely alien to that even. So if the material plane is like the sort of center of all of those various influences of chaotic evil all the way to lawful good, and each of those have their own little worlds or universes, and these things are alien to that, nothing is going to like this. This is as far removed from me as you can get. And so I agree with Greg. They're things that should have many enemies. But like you said, they should also be the mastermind. So I would say when you have a mind flayer as an enemy, it's only got on average 70 hit points. That's nothing.
That's one round.
It's
if it's
so
a good
small. And
as a level 2 with a great axe, I can do like 30 damage.
Y'all took down so many. I had 2 40 hit point characters that you fought yesterday, plus other adds, and you guys had no troubles.
Well, except for one stupid Kinder.
Dang. I'm just going to drag him here.
No, listen, I love the way he was playing it, but he got hit with so many arrows.
I mean, he was a threat. That's, Anyway, so they need to have other things, minions, to kind of like throw at you, whether it's other mind flayers, whether it's oh my god, the brains, what it is. No, not the elder brain. The intellect devourers. Yeah.
Brain with legs.
Brain with legs, yeah. Or thralls. Thralls, you should absolutely have thralls.
Yeah.
I also kind of, and maybe this is a little off topic, but I also am interested in the idea of like the occasional mind flayer who's actually good, because they do exist. Because the thing about being a hive mind, but also being like composed of a hive mind full of intelligent creatures, sometimes one of those, it's very rare, but once in a blue moon, like a mind flayer splits off from it, or maybe it keeps it, or those moments where it has its soul, it's like, I'm not really thrilled about this.
But I gotta eat my brains.
There's one Illithid character who I can't remember, but it was in like a campaign that I was in where the mind flayer was actually kind of their like an information gatherer, like for a party, and the justification for it was like, well, how are you not being a monster and eating people? And he's like, I got a friend in a morgue. And it's like, this is a metropolis. People gonna die. So if you, sometimes there's closed caskets. So that's how it goes. And it's like, disgusting, but you're not murdering anybody, so I guess
works out.
And also, they are like, if through some, and bear in mind, exceedingly rare, you shouldn't have like a colony of happy mind flayers, but if you get one who's like really helpful, they know a lot of things, and they can help you out with a lot of stuff. Like impossible odds stop being really impossible when you have your
person who thinks in a completely new way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, we're going about it the wrong way. So it's but there's also kind of like the trust, like, can I really trust you?
Yeah,
are you?
Because maybe this is the long con.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're also really good at that.
So before we close out, can you both do your mind flayer voice for me?
Oh,
like if you were DMing and you were DMing a mind flayer that was speaking to the players, what would the voice be?
Did you not hear it in your mind just now?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Oh. Well, that's how I would do it.
It's
all telepathic.
Yeah, like literally don't have tongues.
Yeah. No,
mine would be something like, my name is I'm a mind flayer. That's probably what it would be.
I mean, I think it depends on the character, right?
Yeah. And they'd be like, how horrifying.
Yeah. But I do want to
be like,
you could do a good mind flayer without a doubt.
I mean, thank you. I like to think. I mean,
in your brain, you just hear like a ding. Uber Eats is here.
I mean, I think if we're in person playing, I think it would be like a whisper.
Yeah.
I would have it being like a growling whisper. Depends on the mind flayer itself.
I think you could do some, if it's in person again, you could do some fun stuff by like pre-recording phrases or whatever, and then
that's fun.
Like screwing up the audio and then playing it, and
Yeah.
like having people be like, "What are we listening to?"
It's my mixtape, guys. So, there's one thing that I did want to mention because we're in that spooky month. Halloween's next week, so a domain of dread. One of my favorite domains of dread. Is Bluet Spur.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Bluet Spur is so the domains of dread are where Strahd comes in. He has his Ravenloft
own,
is his domain. Bluet Spur is another one, and its Dark Lord is the God Brain of Bluet Spur. And this entire area is essentially there was an Elder Brain that got sick.
Oh,
And as a result, all of the mind flayers also kind of are suffering from this.
Yeah.
And this is a hellscape of alien proportions.
Yeah.
And all sorts of great things come out of it, including let me just read you one of my favorite monster descriptions. When the mind flayers of Bluet Spur could find no cure for their overlord's affliction, their degenerating elder brain turned to radical methods to stave off dementia and death. The results were vampiric mind flayers. Feral atrocities spawned from the mind flayer tadpoles infected with vampirism. And I'll leave it there.
Ooh, that's very cool.
That is right up my alley. I'm like, yes, let me play there. Let me just experience that hell.
What?
Yeah.
The thing's got tentacles. Does it need fangs? Come on. This is...
I love the art for this stupid thing.
Okay, that is...
Whoa,
That is pretty cool.
It does look like the Demogorgon in.
It does. It looks more like the Demogorgon. Yeah.
Well done.
It's and they have a move called Drink Sapience. The Mind Flayer targets one creature it's grappling. The target must succeed a Wisdom saving throw or take psychic damage and 1 level of exhaustion, and then it regains a number of hit points equal to the damage dealt. And if they get hit down to 0. So instead of ripping your brains out, they're out there drinking your sapience like a vampire drinks your blood.
That's very cool.
Which is very cool.
Yeah.
Cool, but messed up.
Yep.
But cool.
But that's my pitch. Check out Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft and read the small page they have on Bluet Spur, and then go find more information in like old editions and things like that. Because very cool domain of dread.
All right, y'all. This has been our episode on Mind Flayers. Tomorrow is our final monster of our Monster Menagerie week. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please go hit like, subscribe, give us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Leave a comment if you would. And everyone,
If you squid,
and we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.